Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2022-3, Copenhagen Calling Slip Stitch Pattern. I'm teaching a class on the Copenhagen Calling Cowl. It's a pattern by Isabel Kraemer, and I've already done one video on this project, and it was about how to cast on, do a 3x1 rib, and how to join in the round. And so this video is going to show you how to do the slip stitch pattern, and there's going to be one other video after this, and that's going to show how to do the thistle lace pattern. So at this point in the cowl, this is very much smaller than what your cowl is going to look like, and I didn't do nearly as many knit 3 purl 1 ribbing as you did, but you will get to a point in the cowl where you finish your ribbing, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to do a few rows of plain knitting and starting to introduce the new color. So as you introduce the new color, just leave a long tail and go ahead and start knitting as you go in the round. And you will do alternating rows, I think possibly 2 or 4 alternating rows of these different colors. And you just knit all the way around in a circle, just like this. So you see when you're on circular needles like this and you joined, you are working in a circle. So these new stitches are going to go all the way around in a circle. So today I'm going to show you something that's a technique called speed swatching, where you can actually mimic working in the round, but on far less stitches, to give you a chance to practice. So I'm going to do this with my students in class so that they don't have to cast on 60 or more stitches to practice the stitch pattern and to learn it. They can actually work on a smaller needle, learn on that, and then move forward. So what I've done for my students is I'll be giving them a DPN like this with 4 rows of the 3x1 ribbing done, and I'll ask them to go ahead and knit the first row of the new color. So I added the new color here, and here's where my yarn ended up. So next we're going to start practicing the slip stitch pattern, but as you'll notice, this is not in the round, it's flat. But what we're going to do is we're going to work to the end of the needle here, and then we're going to carry our yarn around and back to the first stitch and start over here and work this way. So we're going to continue to carry our yarn in the back and work this way, carry in the back, work this way, and see how that's like a circle? It's like knitting in the round. So we're always going to be working this way, just like we did on circular needles. And this way we can just work on 16 stitches instead of 60. So I want to show you what the chart looks like for the slip stitch pattern. Now the pattern has very good written directions for this that you can follow if you would like. But as you go along in your knitting career, you may want to explore using charts often because they do help you kind of read faster, keep your place easier, I think. So let me show you how these work. So this is a knitting chart, and this one, since we are working in the round, and remember I told you we're going to work this way and bring our yarn in the back, and work this way and bring our yarn in the back, work this way, bring our yarn in the back. We're going to read this chart the same way from right to left, right to left, right to left, right to left, every row. And there's 8 rows here. After we finish 8 rows, we'll go ahead and repeat these again, as many times as the pattern tells us. So on this chart, a knit stitch is a plain box with nothing in it. And a box that has a V in it means that you slip that stitch, you don't actually work it, and you keep your yarn in the back. I'll show you how to do that. And now the colors on the chart represent the different colors that we're going to use. So on my project, I'm going to be using the light blue for these blue squares and the white for the white squares. If you're using other colors, if you want to, just to make it easier for you, you can redraw this chart and get some crayons or colored pencils and do them in the colors of your yarn if that would be easier for you to read. Or if you just tell yourself, well, for me, blue means red, and for me, gray means purple, you know, whatever your colors are. So you're also going to be reading the chart from the bottom to the top. So this will be the first round that you're going to do. This will be the second, third, fourth. Okay, so let's start. We're going to start on the end here, and I worked these first rows of knit 3, purl 1 ribbing flat. Okay, so my yarn is actually over here at the edge right now, ready to go. So I'm going to read this first line, and what I'm going to do is knit 1, slip 1 with yarn and back, knit 2, and I'm going to go ahead and I am going to repeat that over and over again. And one thing I'm going to do to help me keep track of where I am, I'm going to go ahead and mark my stitches. I'm going to mark every 8 stitches. That'll be 2 groups of 4, just so that I can kind of keep track of how many times I've done the repeats. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start out by knitting 1, and then I am going to slip 1 with the yarn in back. And the way I do that is my yarn is in the back here. I'm going to put my right needle into the stitch on the left needle like I'm going to purl it, just from right to left, and just slip it over to the new needle. I'm going to take my yarn that's still in the back and I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches. So that's 4 stitches. Okay, and look how they match the chart. 1 blue, 1 white that was slipped, and 2 blues. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to knit 1. I'm going to slip 1 with the yarn and back. So my yarn is in the back. I'm going to put my right needle into the stitch on the left needle as if to purl and just slip it right off. I'm going to take my yarn again and knit 2 more stitches. And at this point I'm going to go ahead and put a marker in, just so that that marks I finished 2 repeats of 4. So let me get a marker here. There we go. Okay. I could do a marker after every 4 stitches, but that gets to be a lot of markers, so I prefer to use less. Sometimes, like on a repeat like this, I'll sometimes do it every 20 stitches, 5 groups of 4. Whatever I do to kind of help keep me on track. So I'm going to keep going. We said knit 1, slip 1 with yarn and back, that's the white, then knit 2, see that? And then one more time, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn and back, knit 2. Okay, now I get to the end of the row and I'm not working flat, remember. I'm going to pretend I'm working in the round. So I don't want to turn my work over to work row 2. I'm going to pretend like I'm knitting in the round, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry my yarn back here. This is attached to my ball. I'm going to carry it back here and I'm going to let it be floppy. And I'm just going to hold it near my needle here. Maybe I can pinch it a little bit with my left hand. See how I have a big strand hanging in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and use this yarn and knit the first stitch, and I don't want to pull too hard because I don't want to make that strand in the back too tight. And now I'm just going to work down the needle this way again instead of turning it over to work it flat. So the first stitch is a knit, and the second is a slip 1 with the yarn and back, and knit 2. And then you'll come around again to knit 1, slip 1 with the yarn and back, knit 2, And now you're going to have to slip your marker, and that just goes from one needle to the next like that. So it was over here, and it just goes from one needle to the next, and then knit one, slip one, knit two, knit one, slip one, knit two. And we are at the end of row 2 now. And you can look at our knitting here and you can see that we're following the chart. Knit one, slip one, knit two, knit one, slip one, knit two, knit one, slip one, knit two, knit one, slip one, knit two. Both of those rows were the same. And look how the slip stitch is kind of big and stretched right now. And that's okay. That's what we want it to do. That's part of the pattern. So now we're going to start with the lighter colored yarn, the white yarn. On row 3, we start with 3 knits and a slip. Okay. So you can move your stitches down closer to the other end of the needle. Just slide them like that. And you're going to take your lighter colored yarn, which ended on this side of the needle when we did that plain knit row, and you're going to bring that yarn around to the back, just like you did the blue yarn. Have it drape back there, kind of be floppy, and just pinch it, hold it a little there, and you're going to knit 3, and don't pull too hard because you don't want to tighten that yarn in the back. So knit 1, 2, 3, and then slip 1 with a yarn in back. So I take my right needle and slip it into that blue stitch and just move it over to the right needle. And you'll notice that on the chart that slip stitch is blue, and that's because it was blue on the previous row. So here we go. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, slip again. There you go. And then we're going to slip our marker. It's just going to move from one needle to the next. Slip 3. Slip 1 with yarn and back. Slip 3, or knit 3, sorry about that. And slip 1 with the yarn and back. Whoops, I mean that was supposed to be knit 3, not knit 2. There we go. Knit 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip with the yarn and back. So every once in a while when you're doing this method, you might want to tighten your stitches on the edge because they'll get a little loose because of that floppy yarn in the back. But so this is how it's mimicking working in the round, and it gives you a really good idea of how the pattern's going to come out. This is a technique that's used to knit swatches for sweaters that are going to be knit in the round. So you might hear it referred to doing a speed swatch for a sweater knit in the round. So my white yarn is now at the end, and so I'm going to carry it again and let it drape in the back over to the first stitch. And on the chart we can see row 4, the next row, is just plain knit stitches all the way across in the lighter color. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I will continue to knit all the way across here, and then I will work rows 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so these will be done in a very similar fashion. So you read row 5, and that's knit 3 and slip 1 with yarn and back. So I will again take my glue yarn from the back. I'll drape it across the back along with all these other floppy pieces, and I will start working 3 blues and slip 1 with yarn and back. So I think you get the idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and finish this 8-row repeat and get back with you. So thank you for waiting. I'll be right back. Hi, I'm back. I just finished row 8. That was all knits in the lighter color. And if you want to at this point, you can go ahead and take those strands at the back and work at pulling them a little bit tighter this way so that you can tighten up your edge stitches a little bit. So you can just help them along, help get those stitches at the edge just a little bit tighter. Not really important because you're doing this for practice. But it's nice to get those edges looking a little nicer. And then let me come a little closer and show you how the pattern looks right now. It's really pretty. So the first row down here, you see these elongated slipped stitches, and then they alternate in rows 5 to 8. And when you finish row 8, you're going to come back down and start row 1 and work up to row 8 again. And you'll do that for as many times or for whatever length the pattern calls for. So that is the slip stitch pattern for the Copenhagen Cowl. So please come back for the next video. That will show how to do the thistle lace pattern. Thank you. Bye-bye. Just a reminder, the technique shown in this video was working a speed swatch with you carrying strands of yarn across the back of your work. When you're working your real cowl in the round, you won't have to worry about carrying those strands. You'll just do these same stitches that I showed you today, but you'll just keep working them around and around on your circular needles. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.